The woman raised her hand and gently placed it on the center of Pagoda Mountain's forehead. In an instant, a vast and overwhelming power surged into his brow, breaking through all resistance and shattering the immortal guard imprint on his body like a blade through bamboo. At the same time, as Pagoda Mountain trembled, golden liquid oozed from his body, every drop infused with the essence of all the materials used in his original forging. Within moments, every trace of the immortal guard within and without him had completely vanished. This forceful method of breaking the seal sent chills down Wang Lin's spine. Fortunately, his control over the immortal guard had been external and forceful. If the immortal guard was destroyed, he would not suffer any backlash. Without the immortal guard's imprint, the light in Pagoda Mountain's eyes began to fade. He had once been on the brink of death. Had Wang Lin not reforged him into an immortal guard, he would have long since perished. Now, with the seal gone, deathly aura surged from his body. Yet in front of this woman, how could he be allowed to die? She slowly lifted her right hand and traced her fingertip gently across his forehead, stroke by stroke by stroke. A complex rune gradually took shape beneath her finger, deeply engraved into his brow. In the name of the sacred ancestor of the Rune clan, I awaken your ancestral spirit and bestow upon you the sacred inscription of the Rune clan. Her voice carried a trace of weariness, and as the final stroke fell, the rune at Pagoda Mountain's brow lit with a ghostly glow. His trembling ceased, and calm returned. His gaze met hers, dazed and unsure. As she carved the rune anew, every memory of Pagoda Mountain's life flowed into her without resistance. She saw the people of his clan, dwelling inside a netherworld beast. She saw their sacrificial rites to the immortals. She saw the slave marks imposed upon them. And she saw Wang Lin arrive and take them from the netherworld to a new home. She saw it all, and especially, generation after generation, those slave marks upon the Rune clan. Black blood began to pour more violently from her hollow eye sockets. Qing Lin, you lied to me. Her voice pierced the air, a shriek filled with overwhelming fury. In that instant, the immortal burial vortex beneath her roared to life, spinning violently. Countless soul essences burst forth, their anguished wails echoing through the void. The vortex spun ever faster, murderous aura flooding out and whipping the vortex into a frenzied collapse. Her face twisted with rage, an unthinkable fury, as though it had been suppressed for countless millennia and now could no longer be held back. As her scream reverberated through the realm, the vortex beneath her seemed ready to tear itself free from the ground. But just then, the crimson tendon beneath her feet suddenly erupted with a scarlet glow. Rings of red light encircled her, locking her in place. Yet her fury, born of unending years of imprisonment and betrayal, was unstoppable. With a mere movement, the light rings shattered into pieces. She lifted her right hand and clawed viciously at the vortex below. With that grasp, the earth trembled. The vortex shook violently, and even the entire Immortal Emperor's cave mansion seemed ready to collapse. The immortal burial pool that had transformed into a vortex began to unravel under her grasp. Soul essences within it screamed as they were torn apart. The vortex shrank rapidly and surged upward, heading straight for her right hand. In that moment, it was as though she intended to tear the immortal burial pool from the ground with sheer force. The dramatic change sent shockwaves through the surroundings. Tian Yunzi silently watched, a shadow clouding his expression. Voidmaster gave a bitter smile and shook his head. From ancient Immortal Realm texts, he had some inkling of what had happened back then, and seeing this woman, who was rumored to have died, now appear alive, confirmed his suspicions. You lied to me. You promised me you would not harm my people. You said you would open another star domain for them to live in. That from then on, the Immortal Realm and my Rune Realm would coexist in peace. You swore it. Qing Lin, why did you betray me? Her heart-wrenching cry echoed, thick with resentment. As she continued to draw the vortex upward, the immortal burial pool burst apart once more. As it shrank, it revealed a vast black abyss below, and the vortex surged upward, condensing into her hand. Countless soul essences howled forth. Most were immortals slain by Qing Lin across the ages, now released in a terrifying flood. The crimson tendon beneath her pulsed with intense red light. One after another, Red halos formed around her, but each one shattered instantly as it wrapped around her body. At this moment, countless markings suddenly appeared on the crimson tendon, and as soon as these markings emerged, they immediately emitted a burst of crystalline light. The lights floated up from the crimson tendon, rapidly merging together. In an instant, as the crystalline light converged, a fleeting human figure appeared before the woman. The figure was semi-transparent, but it was clear that it was a middle-aged man. He wore a golden robe, and his long hair was tied with a yellow ribbon, flowing freely behind his head. His appearance was extremely handsome, and an aura of immortality and Taoist grace surrounded him. His eyes radiated coldness and indifference, devoid of any spiritual essence. As his figure materialized, an overwhelming aura of supremacy, as if no one could rival him in the world, erupted into the sky. At that moment, even Tian Yunzi's expression changed drastically. Suddenly, countless illusory avatars of himself materialized around him, not as a result of his own will, but due to an aura so powerful that it shook his soul. Indeed, he's even stronger than the man from back then. Tian Yunzi gasped, his eyes filled with deep wariness. In his life, there was only one person who had such an impact on him, and that was the person from back then. At the sight of this figure, Wang Lin immediately gasped, his pupils shrinking sharply. He instantly recognized the figure. This was none other than the one whose statue he had seen in the Flower Consort's Grand Hall. The statue of Qing Lin. Exactly the same. Qing Lin. This is not the real Qing Lin. It's merely a fragment of him left behind from when he sealed the sacred ancestor of the Rune clan in the immortal burial pool. This fragment has no consciousness, no memory, and no divine abilities of his true body. Its only instinct is to prevent Qiu Yao, the sacred ancestor of the Rune clan, from escaping. Voidmaster was also shaken. Having reached his level of cultivation, he could slightly alter the rules of his surroundings. But at the moment, when he saw this figure, it felt as though he had returned to his past, when he was still a mere mortal, feeling the overwhelming weakness that could easily be destroyed with a single breath. At this very moment, far beyond the bounds of the East Sea Demon Spirit Land, outside the reach of the Destiny Star, in a star domain burning fiercely within the Alliance star domain, a shocking transformation began that reverberated through the entire Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect. This transformation was triggered by the awakening of the Vermilion Bird. Once one entered this domain, they would immediately face certain death, with no chance of survival. Even those at the glimpse of Nirvana stage would tremble in fear and dare not step forward. Only those who had reached the shattered Nirvana stage would have the courage to enter, but even they would need to be extremely cautious. A single misstep could result in the destruction of both body and soul. These regions were known within the Cultivation Alliance as Forbidden Death Zones. Anyone who had reached the second step in cultivation would know about these areas, though only a few knew the full extent of the causes behind them. Among these forbidden regions, there was one that had been burning with intense flames for countless years. At first glance, this fire seemed like an ocean, spreading throughout the star domain. The flickering flames were unpredictable, but the terrifying heat and occasional waves of scorching air could cause anyone who saw this burning star domain to shudder. The sight of this sea of fire was unforgettable for anyone who gazed upon it. Even if they were reincarnated, they could never erase the image of the deep crimson flames reflected in their pupils. This sea of fire was different from the immortal Emperor Qing Lin's heaven incineration art, which was an ultimate divine art. The flames here were natural. According to legend, this sea of fire existed even when the immortal realm was still intact, and if one traced back further, it seemed to have existed since ancient times. No one knew how many years this fire had been burning, through the cycles of cultivators, the destruction of the immortal realm, and the passage of ancient eras, yet the fire remained eternal. No one knew what kind of force, what kind of rule, could sustain this eternal flame, which burned without beginning or end, never extinguishing. The eternal flames made this star domain a land of fire. After countless years of burning, all the planets and dust in this vast star domain had vanished, leaving only 9 planets, aligned in a circular formation. Only these 9 stars, purified by the flames of the ages, could endure the unimaginable heat. Yet, despite this, these 9 planets were no longer intact, existing only as crescent-shaped remnants. The intense flames surrounded these 9 planets, as if constantly trying to burn them to ashes. At this moment, on the first of these 9 planets, there were no oceans. Even if there had been any long ago, they had long since evaporated, leaving behind a cracked, barren seabed. At first glance, there was no trace of greenery on this planet. Even the plants that did exist were all fiery red, emitting a dazzling beauty. But beneath this beauty lay death. Any plant capable of surviving in this environment was far from simple. The cultivation star here is like any ordinary one, filled with dense spiritual energy. However, this energy is tainted with fire toxin. A mere breath of it would instantly turn a mortal's body, including their bones, into black ash. Even cultivators cannot withstand the fire toxin for long. This star domain is known as the vermilion bird domain, and the 9 planets here are called the vermilion bird sacred stars. The first sacred star holds the most respect. At its southernmost point stands a towering dark red statue that rises into the sky. This statue is a majestic vermilion bird with wings spread wide, ready to soar. Its tail fans out like flames lifting into the air, radiating across a 10-mile radius. The tail alone is so immense, let alone the massive vermilion bird itself. It occupies an area of several hundred miles, towering like a colossus. Even within the burning starry sky, it can be seen from afar. The vermilion bird's eyes are made entirely of flames. Every hour, a sea of fire emerges from the sky, converging into 2 streams of flames that merge into the bird's eyes. The vermilion bird statue is not just one. There is one on each of the other 8 vermilion bird sacred stars. These 9 identical statues serve as the highest symbol of the entire vermilion bird sacred sect. Beneath this vermilion bird statue, dozens of people dressed in crimson robes sit cross-legged. These men and women are continually absorbing the fire energy that surrounds them. The tail of the vermilion bird divides into 3 branches, each with an elder seated cross-legged on it. The 3 elders are making hand seals, chanting strange sounds. Their voices cause each feather of the statue to glow with fire, spreading around and being absorbed by the cultivators below. This scene is part of the daily training in the vermilion bird sacred sect, where they absorb the fire energy from the sacred statue. From a distance, apart from these dozen or so cultivators beneath the statue, there are hundreds more seated, cultivating their breathing. Looking further out, the entire planet, with the vermilion bird statue at its center, is surrounded by countless cultivators, dozens, hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands. They are all dressed in the same attire, quietly absorbing the flames emanating from the statue. As time passes, the flames of the vermilion bird statue gradually begin to dissipate, and the cultivators begin their final phase of cultivation, preparing to finish their session. As usual, once they complete their breathing exercises, it signals the end of the day's training. From the farthest reaches, some cultivators, having absorbed less fire energy, open their eyes. Gradually, as more cultivators stop their breathing exercises, their divine senses return to normal. Even the 3 elders seated on the tail of the vermilion bird statue awaken from their deep meditation. One of them stands up, looking down at the dozens of disciples of the vermilion bird sect, about to speak. But in that very moment, a sudden and drastic change occurs. The vermilion bird statue shakes violently. The flames that had previously dimmed suddenly erupt, with red light flaring from the statue at an alarming rate. The flames increase rapidly, climbing higher and higher. The 3 elders' expressions change dramatically. Without hesitation, they soar into the air. One of them roars, "Disciples of the vermilion bird sacred sect, retreat. Retreat immediately." The other 2 elders swing their robes, summoning fierce winds that lift the disciples from the ground. The disciples are blown into the air, and they all swiftly retreat without a second thought. In an instant, all the cultivators around the vermilion bird statue begin to retreat. From above, it looks like a wave of people flowing away from the statue. The flames of the vermilion bird statue grow even fiercer, soaring into the sky and spreading across the entire heavens. The massive fire forms a tidal wave, expanding in a circular motion. At this moment, the same scene is happening on the other 8 vermilion bird sacred stars, almost simultaneously. This sudden change sends shockwaves through the vermilion bird sacred sect, but some of the older members, recognizing the change, tremble not in fear, but in excitement. The vermilion bird's transformation. The vermilion bird's transformation. I never thought I would live to see this day. An old man with white hair laughs heartily, his eyes filled with awe as he gazes at the statue. Not just him. Everyone who knows of the vermilion bird's transformation is filled with excitement, their eyes fixed on the sky. Although not many, those who understand the significance of this transformation possess extraordinary cultivation. At the moment the transformation happens on the first sacred star, far to the east, within a purple-red sea of fire, the ground suddenly collapses with a loud crash. A purple-red figure swiftly emerges from the fiery chaos. The moment the figure appeared, the surrounding sea of flames immediately coalesced, encircling the figure. Amid the fluctuating firelight, one could faintly make out the wrinkled face of an old man. He stared blankly at the sky, transfixed by the sudden transformation of the vermilion bird, his body trembling involuntarily. Vermilion bird transformation. He gazed with tears streaming down his face, laughing manically. It really is the vermilion bird transformation. This scene was happening simultaneously on all 8 of the vermilion bird sacred stars. The vermilion bird sacred statue emitted a thick, fiery aura. Just as it was pushing outward, it suddenly reversed, and the flames that had spread out immediately rolled back inwards, converging towards the statue. This was not a short-range gathering of fire. Instead, all the flames on the vermilion bird sacred star, at every location, were madly being drawn toward the statue, as though an unimaginable force of suction had appeared within it. From a distance, the vermilion bird sacred star seemed to transform into an ocean, with flames surging in from all directions. At that moment, the world seemed to change color, and the winds and clouds stirred. As the flames were absorbed, the vermilion bird sacred statue erupted like a volcano, red-hot flames pouring from it to form a massive fire pillar that shot toward the heavens. It was as if the vermilion bird sacred statue was using the fire of the entire planet to create a pillar of flame that could pierce the skies and break through the sacred star. With a thunderous roar, the fire pillar pierced through the clouds, cutting through the violent winds and scorching heat, and broke free from the sacred star, emerging into the burning star domain. In that instant, 8 other fire pillars erupted from the remaining vermilion bird sacred stars, having absorbed enough flames to burst forth. In the blink of an eye, the 9 fire pillars converged in the center of the 9 sacred stars, forming a circle. As the 9 fire pillars converged, a vermilion bird's cry rang out, far louder and more powerful than the one Wang Lin had heard within the bottle realm. The immense power surged through the burning star domain. With the cry of the vermilion bird came a vermilion bird so vast, it seemed comparable to an entire cultivation star. This vermilion bird had seemingly not appeared for countless millennia. Its sudden emergence caused the flames that the Cultivation Alliance had long feared to surge forth. The shockwaves it created made the entire burning star domain feel like a violent tidal wave, sending a howling roar that shook the entire starry sky. This was the vermilion bird transformation. The first since the vermilion bird sacred sect's defeat at the hands of the Cultivation Alliance. For the vermilion bird sacred sect, this transformation held immense significance. It signified that a potential vermilion sacred emperor had awakened, and only such a being could trigger the vermilion bird transformation, bringing forth the true spirit of vermilion bird, a spirit that had not appeared for tens of thousands of years. At this moment, 9 purple-red figures suddenly flew out from the 9 vermilion bird sacred stars. Each of these individuals possessed the cultivation of the glimpse of Nirvana stage. Their simultaneous appearance was to bear witness to this vermilion bird transformation. As they approached the colossal vermilion bird true spirit, the spirit suddenly emitted a bird's cry that reverberated across the starry sky, sending ripples that swept across the burning star domain, pushing vast waves of flames in all directions. Simultaneously, the vermilion bird true spirit's body spun rapidly and transformed into a giant fireball. Swirling waves of fiery vortexes radiated from it. Within the fireball formed from the vermilion bird true spirit, a twisted image suddenly appeared. In the image, a figure with long flowing hair stood, the vermilion bird totem swirling around him, and he emanated a powerful flame aura. From a distance, he appeared like the very embodiment of the vermilion bird. It was Wang Lin. In the image, besides Wang Lin, there was the sacred ancestor of the Rune clan, with a tragic expression and blood flowing from her empty eyes. In front of her stood Qing Lin, in his split spirit form, shimmering with crystalline light. As the image emerged, the woman's vacant eyes locked onto the 9 individuals, making their spirits tremble. That woman is the sacred ancestor of the Rune clan, Qiu Yao. That person in front of her, judging by his appearance, could it be the immortal Emperor Qing Lin from back then? Other figures also appeared in the image, including Voidmaster and Tian Yunzi. Voidmaster and Tian Yunzi are also there. The Vermilion Bird Awakener is in such a dangerous place. With Voidmaster being a key figure in the alliance, he certainly won't allow anyone from the Vermilion Bird sect to awaken. But this Awakeners, I've never seen him before. How did he obtain the Vermilion Bird sequence? As the 9 looked at the scene within the fireball, a powerful divine sense suddenly swept across from deep within the burning star domain. The strength of this divine sense halted the flames momentarily. There is no doubt about his identity. The Vermilion Bird mark is a token sent by my clone. You must use all the strength of your clan to seek out the true spirit's guidance. Do whatever it takes to bring him back safely. As the divine sense passed, the 9 immediately showed expressions of fervent reverence. By the sacred emperor's command, I have little time left. My wounds from the past have worsened. This child's awakening is the hope of our Vermilion Bird sacred sect. Get close to him and protect him at all costs. At this moment, within the immortal emperor's cave mansion, the instant Qing Lin, formed from crystalline radiance, appeared. Wang Lin immediately felt a surge of heat from the Vermilion Bird totem on his body. Before he could even examine it, several sharp gazes turned toward him. Voidmaster's eyes flashed with killing intent. In that same instant, he detected the change in the totem on Wang Lin. The Vermilion Bird sect has discovered his awakening. Through countless ages, how could she not know that a wisp of the other's split spirit had been fused into this restriction seal? Its sole purpose was to seal her completely, eternally. Sensing Qing Lin's split spirit, the woman's hatred intensified. Her hollow eyes locked onto where Qing Lin had manifested, and fragments of memories began to flash rapidly through her mind. Qing Lin. She almost spat through clenched teeth. At the moment his split spirit appeared, a dark gleam flashed between her brows. A complex rune shimmered into existence and instantly transformed into a savage crimson beast bone that hurtled straight toward Qing Lin's split spirit. The moment the beast bone appeared, an overwhelming murderous aura erupted around it. The temperature plummeted as if winter had suddenly descended. With the continued spread of that aura, sheets of ice rapidly formed across the surroundings with crackling sounds. Inside Wang Lin's body, his primordial energy surged. The searing heat of the sacred vermilion flame coursed through him. Yet his eyes remained locked on that beast bone, a storm of emotion roiling within him. Zimu Dao Wither? Wang Lin glanced at the back of his right hand. There, the grotesque form of Zimu Dao Wither was clearly visible. This divine art used by the sacred ancestor of the Rune clan looks exactly like Zimu Dao Wither. Only the color differs, and the spell it contains is not the same. The split spirit of Qing Lin, formed from crystalline radiance and sealed within the restriction, stared coldly at the woman. He raised his right hand and pointed forward. At that motion, countless crystalline lights surged from Qing Lin's body, converging at the tip of his index finger. As he pointed outward, the crystal lights burst forth like a river of radiant light, encircling the oncoming beast bone. In the instant they formed a circle, the crystalline lights rapidly contracted inward at a speed beyond comprehension, piercing straight into the beast bone. As the crystal points penetrated it, threads of crimson aura were drawn out and swept away, merging with the crystalline flow. As more and more of the crimson essence was extracted, the beast bone dimmed noticeably, as if stripped of its vitality. Moments later, a radiant crystal the size of a fist emerged from within the bone. As it appeared, a blinding radiance exploded outward like countless swords of light. Everyone watching gasped. What a domineering restriction technique. Void Master inhaled sharply. It doesn't consume even a sliver of split spirit energy. It extracts the rules of the opponent's divine art and completely converts them into sealing power. Even my senior brother couldn't wield such power with ease. His pupils contracted, but soon a greedy light blazed in his eyes. Qing Lin is powerful, but based on the Cultivation Alliance's years of surveillance and intel, I'm 90% sure he's at death's door. If we can capture him and use special methods to control him, then the Cultivation Alliance will have no more rivals. A thunderous roar burst out. As the radiant crystal within the beast bone erupted, the bone trembled, releasing beams of light before shattering with a loud crash. Its fragments swept outward in all directions. Though described in detail, all of this happened in an instant. The dazzling light pierced the eyes of the onlookers, forcing them to retreat. Qing Lin gazed coldly at the sacred ancestor of the Rune clan. He raised his right hand again, and a strange hand seal manifested, which he hurled forward. A howling sound filled the air as the hand seal transformed into a rune glowing with cyan light, hovering in the void above the woman. As this first seal rune was cast, the immortal burial vortex that the woman had begun to summon beneath her let out a roar-like howl. From within the vortex, soul essences shrieked as they burst out. Initially few in number, they multiplied exponentially in a blink, surging forth as if without end. The massive vortex instantly broke free from the woman's control. With a deafening rumble, it began to spin with even greater speed, emitting a tearing sound that seemed to rend the heavens and the earth. Inside it, an unimaginable number of souls moved along with the swirling vortex. Each one had a horrific appearance, their mournful howls echoing as if a door to the hell of samsara had been opened. The number of souls was overwhelming, and as Wang Lin glanced at them, his scalp immediately went numb. Among these souls, there were immortals, members of the Rune clan, ancient Qi practitioners, and even many fierce beasts he had never seen before. Each of these souls radiated terrifying pressure. Although they had long since perished, the overwhelming aura clearly indicated that, in life, each of these beings had been incredibly powerful. Those who were cast into the immortal burial pool by immortal Emperor Qing Lin must have had their qualifications. Amidst the endless howls of the souls, the immortal burial vortex suddenly roared to life, like an angry sea storm. It spun rapidly beneath the woman, and an incredible suction force, far stronger than before, emerged in an instant. Strangely, however, this suction force only affected the woman, while Wang Lin and the others felt no effect at all. Without hesitation, Qing Lin continued. His hands formed seals, and another rune appeared, floating to the left side of the woman's body. The moment this rune manifested, the howling from the immortal burial vortex intensified. Its speed doubled as it seemed to transform into a gigantic abyss, aiming to swallow the woman whole. Black blood continued to flow from the woman's eyes, and from a distance, it looked like tears, but these tears were deeply disturbing. Why did you lie to me? Why did you lie to me? Why? The woman's voice was filled with piercing power, and as her words echoed, the two marks on her body trembled as if they could collapse at any moment. Even more terrifying was that the void around her body began to crack in response to her sharp voice, as if the very fabric of space was about to collapse. As her voice penetrated the void, a series of sonic booms followed, reverberating around them, eventually becoming a storm that charged directly at Qing Lin. Blood immediately flowed from Wang Lin's ears. Despite continuously circulating his spiritual power and possessing the ancient god physique, the sound still caused him harm. In his ears, a deafening buzz filled his mind, the same three words echoing repeatedly, why? Wang Lin's face showed a look of horror as he turned his head. It wasn't just him. Situ Nan and the others were similarly affected. Only Tian Yunzi, Void Master, and the man in black remained unfazed, their expressions dark. The sound turned into a storm, charging at Qing Lin, but Qing Lin's expression remained cold. He raised his right hand and pointed forward. In that instant, The oncoming wave of sound was instantly halted. It was as if an unimaginable force of heaven and earth had descended, pulling away the right to act from everything in the world according to the will of the one who summoned it. The power of countless invisible rules enveloped the sound, stopping all movement. Body immobilization art. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed with an extraordinary light, a surge of excitement welling up inside him. The body immobilization art was an incredibly important divine technique to him. Throughout his life, he had survived numerous dangerous situations thanks to this technique. It had become an indispensable spell for him. However, he had only learned this technique from the jade slip left by immortal Emperor Qing Lin. At that time, no one else in the world had been seen using it, and since then, he had had no opportunity to improve or even break through its origins. But now, this was the first time he had seen the body immobilization art used by someone else, and that someone was Qing Lin himself. In that fleeting moment, the use of the technique may not have been deeply insightful to others, but for Wang Lin, who was the inheritor of Qing Lin's body immobilization art, witnessing its application was of immense significance to him. It was akin to being personally taught by Qing Lin. Just as a master demonstrates a technique to his disciple after the disciple has learned it, giving the disciple an opportunity to refine and adjust. This was an opportunity Wang Lin had dreamed of, as though Bai Fan had returned to the world and demonstrated his full array of skills, from summoning winds and rains to shaking the earth and bringing forth the moon. But now was not the time for detailed study. Wang Lin could only commit that fleeting moment to memory, to be fully comprehended in seclusion after leaving this place. Qing Lin's right hand did not pause. After halting the sonic storm, he quickly formed seals without hesitation. In an instant, 7 more rune seals appeared, spreading around the woman. These combined with the 2 previous seals, forming a 9-seal formation. Around the woman's body, 9 seal runes formed a circular arrangement, emitting strange and dazzling light. In that instant, as all 9 seals appeared, the immortal burial vortex beneath her exploded with a tremendous roar. The vortex howled violently, expanding rapidly as it spun. In that moment, countless souls surged from within the vortex, rushing toward the woman. In the blink of an eye, around the woman's body, countless souls filled the space. These souls began to coalesce, transforming into black chains that immediately bound her, pulling her fiercely toward the vortex below. The woman's expression became one of despair. Runes flickered on her forehead, and with each flicker, a booming sound echoed. The large iron chains around her body would collapse with each pulse, disintegrating into shredded souls that screamed in agony before being sucked into the immortal burial vortex. But as soon as the chains broke, countless more souls surged out of the vortex, reforming new iron chains, which continued to pull her down. The scene left everyone watching in stunned silence, their minds shaken by the sight, each person moved by the intense spectacle. The woman laughed bitterly. She had been sealed here for far too many years, her cultivation long gone. If it weren't for Qing Lin's split spirit, there might have been a slim chance for her to escape her restraints. But now, there was no hope. Amidst her bitter laugh, her hollow eye sockets seemed to glimmer with life. Although she had no eyes, at that moment, a verdant aura swirled within her eye sockets, as though taking the place of her eyes, bringing her some sense of vitality. She looked at Qing Lin's split spirit, the one preventing her escape, and bitterly mocked. The one I hate most in this life is you, Qing Lin. Back then, my Rune clan offended the Palm Sovereign and had to flee into the sealed boundary, one that the Palm Sovereign could not control. We intended to hide here, to avoid conflict, and simply survive, far from death. But when your immortal realm attacked, it was because your immortal realm coveted the original power of my Rune clan. We struck first. Was my Rune clan supposed to just obey? That war lasted too long. Your immortal realm spared no effort, and you, in your bid to seize my clan's sacred treasure, the sacred vial, slaughtered countless powerful members of my Rune clan. Had it ended there, perhaps I could have accepted it. After all, war between 2 realms inevitably leads to death. But as an immortal emperor, the most powerful being in the 4 immortal realms, why did you have to deceive a woman's fragile heart? You promised me I would be your Rune consort. I, Xiao Yao, betrayed my own clan for you, willingly becoming your consort, hoping to secure a place for my Rune clan to survive in this sealed boundary. You promised me you loved my eyes. For you, I gouged out the very eyes that my Rune clan had preserved for countless eons, eyes imbued with the primordial power that our ancestors had passed down. I gave them to you willingly. Do you still remember that moment? Do you remember the blood that stained my eyes, the blood that fell from my eye sockets? She smiled bitterly, and as she spoke, black blood flowed like tears down her face. But these were no ordinary tears. They were the tears of a woman's sorrow, her mind flashing with endless memories of the past. Why? Why did I do everything for you? And yet you still lied to me. You promised me a realm for my Rune clan. You promised me that my descendants would survive forever, and you said that one day, you would lead us back beyond the sealed boundary. These were your promises. How foolish I was to believe you, Qiuyao. I've been here in the immortal burial pool, forever suppressing the souls for you. Even though I knew it was a form of imprisonment, I still chose to trust you. If I hadn't sensed the approach of my clan's people today, if I hadn't come at any cost to see them, I would have never known the truth. My Rune clan never had a realm. After I was sealed, my clan became nothing more than slaves to your immortal realm. What makes me hate you even more, Qing Lin, is that you must be heartless. You must have no feelings, no compassion. Are you made of stone? The ordinary slave mark could never have bound my Rune clan for eternity. That slave mark, it clearly originated from the primordial power in the eyes I gave you. Only such a mark could bind my clan. From me, you took my eyes, you took that thread of primordial power, and you used it to forge countless slave marks, turning all of my Rune clan into mere ants in your immortal realm. For generations, we were forced to worship you as our master. The black blood tears in the woman's eyes grew more abundant, as though they could never cease, carrying with them the weight of her countless millennia of longing and the overwhelming hatred that surged forth after her instant collapse. Qing Lin, if your split spirit exists, then you have not perished. Dare you appear before me? The woman's shrill voice echoed, tinged with a bitter laugh. Her body was slowly pulled into the immortal burial vortex. Just as her body was about to be completely consumed by the vortex, the woman suddenly raised her head. The runes above her brow flickered wildly, and they violently detached from her forehead. Even from Wang Lin's position, he could clearly see the threads of blood and the runes connecting them. At the moment they detached, he could almost feel the excruciating pain. But for the woman, this pain was nothing compared to the torment within her heart. She raised her right hand, gripping the rune at her brow, ignoring the agony as she forcefully yanked it free and tossed it upward. Pagoda Mountain remained ever present in the distance, and the unfolding scene granted him some clarity. Yet, his eyes still reflected a lingering confusion. The rune the woman had cast flew like lightning, striking directly into the center of Pagoda Mountain's brow. The sharp pain was searing as it merged deeply within. After throwing the rune, the woman became extremely weak, slowly sinking into the immortal burial vortex. Her eyes, now glowing with verdant light, glanced at Wang Lin as she muttered, "You have helped my Rune clan. I, Qiuyao, will never forget those who have shown kindness to my people." A bitter smile spread across her face again as she raised both hands and drove them forcefully into her own eyes. Her body trembled violently, and the two masses of cyan light that had replaced her eyes were pulled out, then flung toward Wang Lin. The two beams of cyan light merged into one, hurtling straight toward him. My Rune clan holds not only our life-binding rune, but also the power of the Withered rune art. This is the method of crafting the Withered rune. For your care of my Rune clan, I will ensure my descendants grant you the power of these runes. Wang Lin caught the cyan light sphere, and immediately, he heard the woman's divine sense in his ears. Casting a deep glance at the ever-cold Qing Lin split spirit, the woman's body was entirely submerged in the immortal burial vortex. In that instant, everything went silent. Even the countless souls in the vortex seemed to dissolve with her, merging into the whirlpool. Only the howling of the vortex persisted, rising and falling slowly. The whirlpool gradually sank, as though it would soon disappear from the vast pit on the ground. Holding the cyan light sphere, Wang Lin's sharp mind instantly understood the significance of the gift from the woman named Xiao Yao. As she had said, the withered rune art required the power of the Rune clan, using this as an invisible chain to bind Wang Lin to the Rune clan. She has such confidence, which shows that this withered rune art is far from ordinary. Wang Lin's gaze flickered, and his mind returned to the battle with the Yao clan's people in the Luo Tian star domain. He recalled the yellow rune paper that could seal primordial energy. Could it be? Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. At that moment, the once silent immortal burial vortex suddenly erupted with shocking changes. From the center of the sinking vortex, Xiao Yao's figure suddenly reappeared. With a cry of vengeance, an earth-shaking roar came from within the vortex. Qing Lin, even if I die, I will never let you go. As her voice echoed, a massive surge of souls erupted from the immortal burial pool. These souls didn't rush out. Instead, they collapsed one by one, and with each soul's collapse, the immortal burial pool trembled. You should know that I have become one with this immortal burial pool over countless years. They will not let me leave, nor will you. So let us perish together. As Xiao Yao's words of vengeance resounded, the entire immortal burial pool collapsed violently. Countless souls were torn apart, disintegrating into threads of destructive energy that merged into the whirlpool. In an instant, the whirlpool, now filled with this energy, underwent a terrifying transformation. It suddenly shot upward from the vast pit, turning into a giant whirlwind that soared toward the heavens. The power contained within this whirlwind could destroy all living things. In that moment, Void Master's expression changed drastically. He immediately fled with the rustic beauty and the woman who seemed to be the Kungsu Holy Maiden. The others, including Tian Yunzi, also fled in all directions, scattering like birds startled by a storm. The whirlwind howled as it swept across, causing the surrounding world to collapse with a deafening rumble. It wasn't just the void that shattered. The edges of the cave mansions previously sealed by the rogue demons also collapsed. In a matter of moments, the whirlwind broke free. Amidst the hateful laughter rising from the depths below, something began to emerge from within. It was a Tinjong-sized black pool, filled with black blood, emitting an eerie, sinister aura. Strangely, this eerie aura felt like immortal energy. The immortal burial pool. Around the black pool, countless fierce beasts were carved, along with numerous twisted and agonized human faces etched onto its surface. The moment this object appeared, a terrifying aura erupted, sweeping through the immortal spirit heavenly realm outside the immortal palace. In that instant, the winds and clouds reversed, and the sky and earth lost their color. Thunderous roars reverberated through what was once the land of demonic spirits. Even in the distant starry sky, far beyond the land of demonic spirits, a catastrophic change unfolded. The East Sea vortex spun rapidly, drawing in all surrounding primordial energy, causing the vortex to grow uncontrollably, expanding outward. Some passing cultivators were caught in the whirlpool, their physical bodies shattered in an instant, with their souls unable to escape, dying in an unnatural manner. This terrifying development immediately drew the attention of many. At that moment, within the Immortal Emperor's cave residence, the onlookers barely had time to comprehend the situation before a crack appeared on the immortal burial pool with a loud bang. Soon after, the sound of cracking intensified as more fissures formed. Within moments, the once renowned immortal burial pool collapsed with a mighty explosion. The souls of all the immortal burial spirits inside were torn apart, creating an unimaginable shockwave that spread wildly in all directions. Qing Lin, who had split his spirit, didn't dodge. As the shockwave from the collapsing immortal burial pool rushed towards him, he closed his eyes, transforming into a scattering of crystal particles that dispersed throughout the cave. The shockwave enveloped the entire area with a deafening thunderous sound. The force of the blast was so overwhelming that it shattered the seals of the dispersing demons, revealing the true form of the immortal palace. Under the impact, everyone, including Wang Lin, was hurled away, their bodies propelled by a tremendous force and sent flying in all directions. Within the immortal palace, the shockwave from the immortal burial pool's collapse scattered everyone, including even Void Master, who turned pale under the force, sustaining injuries. Forgetting about the rustic beauty and the woman in pink, he was slammed into an immortal palace restriction, and with a flash of light, his figure vanished. As for the rustic beauty and the woman in pink, they too were sent flying and vanished after touching the surrounding restrictions. Tian Yunzi, constantly retreating, his eyes gleaming with strange light, took odd steps, and in a single leap, disappeared into the restriction of a distant pavilion. Most of the others scattered in retreat as well. Wang Lin and Situ Nan were also forced apart by the shockwave. With a roar, Situ Nan's figure flickered, and he couldn't resist the overwhelming force from the impact. Spitting a mouthful of blood, he vanished into a restriction in the sky. Wang Lin's body trembled, and under the shockwave's power, it felt as if his bones were shattering. Intense pain surged through him as he coughed up blood and fell into a flower thicket. Perhaps he touched a restriction, and with a flash of light, his figure slowly dissipated. Just as his body was about to vanish, a streak of crystal light appeared, rushing from the vortex created by the collapsed immortal burial pool. It tore through all the restrictions in its path and shot directly at Wang Lin. In an instant, it entered Wang Lin's storage pouch, merging with the yellow crystal given to him by the mysterious man from the Grand Hall. Qing Lin's split spirit. This was the last thought that crossed Wang Lin's mind before his body dispersed. In that instant, he clearly saw Qing Lin's split spirit within the crystal light. The collapse of the immortal burial pool caused a violent tremor in the immortal emperor's cave residence. All those who had entered were scattered and sent to different places through the activated restrictions. Perhaps it was fate. Just as Wang Lin's figure disappeared, a woman covered in demonic aura with a scarred face fell in the same shockwave, landing not far from where Wang Lin vanished. She triggered a restriction in the flower thicket and disappeared, transported to the same place as Wang Lin. After a long time, the shockwaves dissipated, and the ground was left in ruins, with only a deep crater remaining, radiating cold air. The immortal burial pool had turned into countless fragments, scattered throughout the various restrictions, all of which disappeared. The area was silent. After an unknown amount of time, a person crawled out of the deep pit in the ground. This person had a large head and a small body, and as he emerged, fear was still evident in his eyes. Behind him, the three masters of Dust Path and everyone who had been pulled into the vortex, except for one disciple of the rustic beauty and elder son, who had lost the star mark minx, had crawled out. They stood in silence, looking around with lingering fear. No one noticed that far off in the distance, a flash of star mark mink appeared, moving with such speed that the others, still shaken from their narrow escape, only saw a blur before it rushed into the deep pit, heading downward. Its eyes glistened with intelligence. It could clearly sense a breath below that made it feel both captivated and maddened.